You missed the whole magazine at damn near point blank range with an enemy with his back turned to you, not moving. How is that possible? And my man, retire. Well, you're about to get retired right now by Mr. Alvin York because he's out of ammo, but if that's the way you shoot, I can't imagine you can fight. That's crazy. Yeah, we'll change it. Okay. I feel like this is a better time than any to change it to this. All right. Here we go.
War hero, they probably instinctively just jump to John Rambo, the fictional hero from the Vietnam War. Well, John Rambo is actually based off of a real war hero, Roy Benavidez. Roy Benavidez joined the army because he wanted to be like Audie Murphy, the most decorated war hero of World War II, and Audie Murphy joined the military because he wanted to be like this man. Today we're talking about Alvin York, a 6 foot, 215-pound, red-headed hillbilly blacksmith from the mountains of Tennessee that was drafted into World War I despite his desire to be a conscientious objector due to his devout Christian beliefs. By the time his paper—
Oh, so he didn't want to kill anybody. He didn't want to take life. I think, wasn't it like only people— no, wasn't it only people that joined on their own could do that, be a conscientious objector? Or were you allowed to do that as a draftee? I don't know. I can't remember. I wasn't there. I wasn't alive.
Desire to be a conscientious objector due to his devout Christian beliefs. By the time his paperwork had cleared recognizing him as a conscientious objector, he decided to go into combat anyways because he had become convinced that he was on a mission from God to protect the innocent, and he would go on to become one of America's greatest war heroes in World War I. All right, our story begins on December 13th, 1887, when Alvin York is born. He is born, he has a mother, a father, 2 older brothers, and would later go on to have 8 younger siblings, and they all grew up in a 2-bedroom log cabin in Pall Mall, Tennessee, right next to the Kentucky border. The York family has been in this exact spot for generations.
Pall Mall, Tennessee? Pall Mall, like, just like the cigarette? That's some shit-ass cigarettes, by the way, too. Ugh. Only people I've ever known to smoke those, like, strippers. Strippers and like 80-year-old ladies.
Alvin's great-great-grandfather originally settled here, and when he first lived there, he was living inside of a cave. They then later built this log cabin, and that cave was converted into a blacksmith shop. The same exact blacksmith shop that Alvin works in as an apprentice his entire childhood underneath his dad when they're not busy farming their 75 acres and going hunting for food. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to explain to you that these are straight-up mountain folk and have been for hundreds of years, okay? They're devout Christians living out in the rural area by themselves. They just want to be left alone to their own affairs and be self-sufficient, and his family is very, very good at it. Now, Alvin was the 3rd oldest, the 3rd son of 11 siblings, and I don't want to say he was the favorite child, but him and his dad did have a very special relationship because he wanted to be just like his dad. He was attached to his dad at the hip from the time that he could walk. He was getting up every morning, going hunting with his dad, then he was coming back and he was working in the field with his dad. Then they were coming back, eating dinner, and he was going out and making horseshoes and working in the blacksmith shop with his dad, and he did that for his entire childhood. One of the things that Alvin excelled at the most was hunting. He was just a natural marksman. He was extremely accurate. By the time he was 10 years old, he was so accurate with his rifle that when he went turkey hunting, rather than shooting the body and ruin a bunch of the meat, he would opt to just blow the turkey's head off completely, saving all of the meat. Bear in mind, this is with a Civil War era black powder musket, not a shotgun, so that's extremely impressive.
Yeah.
By the time he was a teenager, the nearest town, Pall Mall, Tennessee, would have shooting competitions every weekend, and sometimes these shooting competitions would have prizes. There'd be 4 separate events. If you won one of the events, the prize wasn't cash, it was a cow, so you would actually win a quarter of that cow.
Cash cow.
Young teenage Alvin York would walk miles into town, partake in this shooting competition with his muzzleloader, win all 4 events, and then opt to just take the whole cow and walk it home so he didn't have to carry all the slaughtered meat himself, and he would then slaughter the cow once he got home. Not only was Alvin extremely accurate with a firearm, but by the time he was 18, 19, 20 years old, he was a pretty big dude by that point in time. Like, he was the biggest guy in his family and the biggest guy in town. He was a 6-foot redhead coming in at 215 pounds that had been doing nothing but running around in the woods hunting for food and blacksmithing his entire life. He was...
You know, this is from a long time ago when 6 foot is considered tall as shit.
built like a brick shithouse. He was so big and so jacked compared to everybody else living up in the Appalachian Mountains that they would just refer to him as Biggin. You know, as in like, hey, go talk to Alvin about that. Oh, okay, sure. Which one's Alvin? Fucking the Biggin. And this has been his entire life at this point, his childhood, his teenage years, his early 20s, just hunting out in the woods, blacksmithing, farming, getting food to survive, minding his own business, and going to church on Sundays. That's what he does. That's all he ever wants to do. It's just a perfect, peaceful, happy life. As time goes on, his two older brothers wind up finding wives. They move out. They start their own families. Now Alvin is the oldest sibling in the house. And then in 1911, his father passes away, and Alvin becomes the man of the house. And Alvin obviously does not take this that well. His dad was his best friend. He was attached to the man at his hip his entire life. Not only is he gone and he lost his friend, but he has to immediately step in and fill the giant shoes that he left behind to provide for his mother and his 8 younger siblings. During this time, Alvin quits going to church. He picks up a drinking problem, a smoking problem, a gambling problem. He's doing everything he can to make money and provide for his family, but any free time he has, he's spending at the bar getting belligerently drunk. Over the course of the next couple of years, Alvin gets a reputation for being a troublemaker. He's always getting in fights, both fists, knives. Thankfully, he's able to avoid gunfights because anytime somebody wants to pull a gun because he's a big dude, he pulls out his gun and shoots something as a demonstration of how accurate he is. One account said a man pulled a gun on him, he pulled out his gun and then shot the head off a lizard behind him. At which point that guy was like, you know what, never mind, I'm good. Puts the gun back away, which is probably the correct answer. Now, this raises a question. How does he always get in all these fights, but he never actually gets in trouble? Well, one, this is the early 1900s in rural Tennessee and Appalachia, so there isn't much law enforcement. Yeah. But to make things worse, his preferred bar is known as the Blind Tiger, which is literally on the border between Kentucky and Tennessee. And inside the bar, there's a white line painted across the floor labeling each state, Kentucky and Tennessee.
That's
so
hilarious.
Even when the sheriffs did show up, all anybody in the bar would do is if the Tennessee sheriffs showed up, they would walk over to the Kentucky side and be like, you don't have any jurisdiction here, and vice versa.
You're just out of our jurisdiction.
Come on.
And so if
This is such a good movie, bro. Blue Streak is the name of it. If you've never seen it, check it out.
I'm across the way and you're over there, there's no way that you...
Hey Roy, welcome to Total Wine and More. What you looking for?
Rachel, I'm here to expand my wine
I
horizons.
don't give a fuck.
Now, to us, modern day people, obviously this sounds a little bit ridiculous that they would just walk across a painted line on the ground like it was, you know, a salt line that demons can't cross and the law enforcement can't get you. But back then, it's really how it went, because if 1, 2, even 3 deputies showed up to a bar fight and there's 40 people in the bar and they all walk to the other side and they're like, you have no jurisdiction here, and the other 40 dudes all have guns, guess what? You don't really have any jurisdiction here.
You really
the only
don't.
jurisdiction you have is to lose a 40-on-3 gunfight. Okay, this
Kind of like that one scene from Fast and Furious where the Rock character shows up. He's like, nah, dog, you're in Brazil. Get the fuck out of here. They all have guns. They're just outnumbered as fuck. Live to fight another day, really. And that's just basically what happens. And not to mention, you got to look at it this way. If there's a problem at the bar and you get called there, but then when you get there, it seems like everyone is on the same page, there's not much to do. The problem has already fixed itself. Because you showed up and everyone was like, okay, guys, cops are on their way. Calm down. You two, settle the fuck down, get over it, and go stand over there. And then when everybody does, that's just like, okay, there's nothing we can do and there's nothing to do. It seems like they figured it out.
This is 1912, rural Tennessee. There's no calling for backup for the sheriff's department. There's no local police department. There's no highway patrol. There's no National Guard, no FBI, no feds. Nobody's coming to back you up. If you get into some shit with the wrong people, you're just going to be another motherfucker that went missing in the mountains of Appalachia. The end. So Alvin York is just kind of an unstoppable terror on the town when he's drunk. He gets mean. He's huge. You can't beat him in a fist fight. You can't beat him in a gunfight. There's not really anything you can do to the guy. He winds up getting accused of selling stolen guns. Never gets in trouble for it. He'd walk out of the bar at sunrise absolutely hammered. A rooster would crow. He'd pull out his gun and shoot somebody's rooster just because he was hungover and didn't want to hear it. He'd be drunk in the middle of town yelling while church is in session, trying to disrupt everything. Just, there was nothing.
Bro, he did not take his dad's death very well at all. This is like quite possibly the worst way to take a death. And I know that everyone grieves in their own way, but like, dude lost his dad and just immediately became a menace.
Nothing anybody could do about the guy, and this went on for years. And the entire time, he's just breaking his mom's heart, because this is not the sweet young kid that she raised. This isn't the man his father was. This isn't.
Death affects everybody differently. So, you know, you have someone in your life die and you're just like, oh man, I'm sad. You cry, you grieve, you're sad for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, and you're still sad a couple years later, but you know, you are over it. And then other people, they don't react like that at all. They react the exact opposite. And everyone's reaction to death is very, very different. Everyone processes it differently, and everyone deals with it differently as well. So, hey.
The man he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be his dad version 2.0, bigger and stronger and hopefully even better. And he's just not turning out that way. Then on New Year's Eve, 1914, Alvin goes out drinking, comes back home, 3 in the morning, pissed drunk, and his mom stays up all night waiting for him, and she finally confronts him and just says, Alvin, when are you gonna start being the man that your father and your grandfathers were? And the words hit Alvin like an absolute truck. He knows what he's been doing is wrong, and he just breaks down. He's literally on his knees, sobbing with his head in his mom's lap, crying and apologizing. He promises his mom he's going to turn her around. He's going to start going to church again. He's going to give up gambling, smoking, drinking, fighting, everything. He's going to be the man his father was and the man that he was supposed to be. And his mom just says, I know you will. And that's it. January 1st, 1915, Alvin York is a completely new man. He gives up.
January 1st, man. His ass actually made a resolution.
All of it. He starts going to church again, and he just starts doing all the things that he should have been doing all along. I'm paraphrasing here, but he would later go on to write that essentially he had fought an awful lot of men at this point in his life, and the fight that he had with himself to give up drinking and smoking was absolutely the hardest fight he ever had. But he does it, and within a couple of years, he's an elder in his church. He's literally teaching Sunday school to kids, and he's overall just an upstanding member in his community. His reputation isn't fully repaired yet, but it's definitely getting better. Around this point in time, he falls in love with the girl down the road, Gracie. He meets up with her in private all the time. They never do anything wrong. They never kiss. They don't even hold hands. But they just talk, and Alvin York wants to marry this woman. Problem is her father does not approve.
That was like the early 1900s of Netflix and chill, but with no Netflix and no BJs at all. It really was just chilling, man.
Because he's only been an upstanding member of the community for a couple of years now, and he was an absolute terror for like 5 years before that, and he's not convinced that Alvin York is a good man yet. And York just kind of accepts that. He knows that he did wrong, and he's got to prove that he's a good man now, so he just gives the father more time and just keeps being an upstanding member in the community. He keeps seeing Gracie, but they never kiss, they never hold hands, they never do anything that would be considered wrong for, Christians in the early 1900s. And that's his plan. He's going to prove to Gracie's father that he's a good man over time, and then he's going to marry that girl, make her his wife, and he's going to go on to live happily ever after. But then in September of 1917, he gets a red card in the mail from Washington, D.C. Alvin York has just been notified that he is to go sign up for the draft to go fight in World War I. Now, he's a devout Christian at this point. He truly, truly believes in his heart, thou shalt not kill. He does not think that he is supposed to fight, kill, do any of that.
And he truly does believe that, because he could have killed several people throughout his little reign of terror when he was having a breakdown because of his father's death, and he killed no one. I mean, he killed a couple of lizards and chickens, and I would venture to say that quite possibly maybe even an annoying dog, but like, you know what I'm saying?
That business, and he does not want to go off to war and do it. So on the draft card they sent him, where he's supposed to fill out all of his information, they ask on there, are you a conscientious objector? He checks yes. Explain your reasoning. He simply writes, I don't want to fight, and mails it back off.
I'm not leaving.
Not fucking leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving.
Obviously, that gets rejected. Alvin York, kind of not knowing what to do, goes to the pastor for help. The pastor helps him file an appeal to send it off to Nashville, and with that appeal, he has 2 sworn statements, one from Alvin, one from the pastor, saying, hey, this is his religion. He is not supposed to be killing people. He should be recognized as a conscientious objector. They mail that off to Nashville, and it still gets rejected again. And the reasoning behind that is because Alvin York's sect of Christianity was Pentecostal, which is a fairly new sect of Christianity at this point in time. I believe it started in the the early 1900s as kind of a veer off from Methodists. So the draft committee in Nashville is essentially like, look, this is a new church. It's not nationwide. It's not well recognized. All the other mainstream Christian denominations, Catholic, Orthodox, Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, they're all getting drafted and going off to war. You guys can too. At this point in time, unless you were like actually a pastor or priest in one of these Christian denominations, conscientious objector status was more reserved for like Quakers, Amish, and Mennonites. So that's it. Alvin York's getting drafted. By November, he's got orders to report for duty, and by February, he is attached to G.
Holy ass. That was the inspection. Footage of... That's crazy.
Alvin York's getting drafted. By November, he's got orders to report for duty, and by February, he is...
That is a wild ass inspection, isn't it? Look at that. Just looking right down the barrel of that thing. And you took that weapon from a recruit. One, you shouldn't be doing that. Two, I wouldn't even trust to do that for a recruit.
Is attached to G Company of the 328th Battalion of the 82nd Infantry Division, also known as the All-American Division.
Oh my God, I'm glad it didn't show him doing it again, because I think I would have lost my mind.
Typically, at this point in time in World War I, World War II, divisions are kind of divvied up by the region that they come from, right? Like the 34th Infantry Division is a bunch of guys from the Midwest. The 77th Infantry Division is a bunch of guys from New York and New Jersey. The 442nd Infantry Regiment is a bunch of Japanese Americans from the West Coast and Hawaii. But the 82nd Infantry Division in World War I is kind of an experiment because they just threw everybody into the same infantry division. They've got people from all 50 states, and 20% of the men weren't even born in America. So you can imagine the culture shock for Alvin, some hillbilly that's lived in rural Tennessee his entire life, probably never traveled more than 60 miles away from his home, and now he's in this place surrounded by people from all 50 states, Poles, Italians, Greeks. It's absolutely crazy.
That's actually still the case today, believe it or not. It was the case when I was in basic training. There was a guy in basic training that basic training was the first time he had ever seen a black person. For real. Just because he never went that far away from home, ever, until that point. I don't think he ever went further than 10 miles. I think like the house, the school, the grocery store, the gas station, and the church were all within like a 10-mile radius of one another. It was very, very small. And so, you know.
Alvin later said he'd never seen a group of men that could out-drink, out-curse, and out-fight these guys, and that's why they are the All-American Division, because they are the embodiment of the concept of the American melting pot. And that's why their logo today says AA on it, for athletic alcoholics. I mean, All-American.
He's absolutely right.
By the way, I don't know if they still do it, but when I was in the service, you know, I too was stationed at an airborne unit. We would talk shit to each other, but one of the main ways we would talk shit to each other is by either how much trouble we got in or by the good that we did. And one thing we would always bring up to the 82nd anytime they would try to talk shit to the 173rd is that the 82nd Airborne did this thing, the commander did this thing where if the entire unit, the entire installation could go 82 days, because 82nd Airborne, if the entire installation could go 82 days without an alcohol-related incident, they'd get a 4-day weekend. And yeah, for like 4 straight years, dog, they did not get a 4-day weekend at all. They just could not make it more than 82 days without an alcohol-related incident, and we would always bring that up to them, and it would really piss them off. That shit was too funny.
Do to the best of his ability, but in the background, he's still kind of trying to go through the paperwork, go through the chain of command, and get himself recognized as a conscientious objector, because at the end of the day, he still does not want to go off and have to take somebody's life because he truly believes thou shalt not kill.
You know, quite a bit of killing does occur in a war.
Despite that, if push comes to shove, it's looking like he might be the best man at doing it because he grew up his entire life no-scope headshotting turkeys with a Civil War era muzzleloader, and the Army has just given him a model 1917 Enfield high-powered rifle chambered in .30-06, and this thing is an absolute killing machine in the hands of Alvin York. He is sitting there in training, hitting bullseye after bullseye. He is the best shot in the entire division. You gotta remember, pretty broad group of people. There's a lot of people in this division that grew up in a city that have
from all over the country too.
Never even seen a rifle, and Alvin's been handling one since he could walk. Also around this point, York starts keeping a diary, mostly just his personal thoughts on how he's dealing with the...
I do remember that from basic training. All of the hillbillies and the country boys and the ones that grew out in the middle of fucking nowhere, man, they thrived in basic training. And you really, really could tell who the city boys were. They always seemed to look confused, man, all the time. Whereas like the drill sergeant would explain something that we would be doing in the field, and all the country boys, they'd be like, yeah, I'm down, bro. And then the city boys would be like, we're sleeping out here?
The potential, internal struggle of having to go off to war and take somebody's life when he doesn't feel like that's the right thing to do. And eventually, word gets around that York is keeping a diary, which is against the rules because you're not supposed to keep a diary because you could write down important intel. And if you get captured off in war and they capture your diary, you could end up betraying information to the enemy. So his commanding officer, Captain Danforth, kind of confronts him about it and is like, hey, are you keeping a journal? At which point York, being a devout Christian man, not wanting to lie, kind of dodges the question. He says, sir, I'm not saying whether I do or whether I don't. At which point the captain says a diary is going to betray you and your comrades. At which point York replies, sir, I didn't come to fight in a war and get captured. If the Germans want to get any intel out of me, they're going to have to get it out of my dead body. And that's coming from the 6-foot, 215-pound redhead brick shithouse hillbilly that only knows how to hit bullseyes. So the captain's like, fuck it, all right. And York just keeps maintaining this diary. But because York was honest with Captain Danforth, he kind of comes to him and is like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. I think I should be a conscientious objector. I do not want to go after combat and have to kill somebody. I truly believe thou shalt not kill. Captain Danforth doesn't have that, authority to grant him that. So he kicks it up the chain of command and he ends up talking to his boss, Colonel Buxton. Colonel Buxton, a devout Christian man, but unlike York, he also believes that Christians have an obligation to go off and fight for their country when it's needed. So he calls York into his office.
Yeah, I understand that, but to a Christian person that has these beliefs and has this stance, right? Obviously, they believe in heaven. To them, in their eyes, they're going to be like, yeah, you say that I have a responsibility to do that, even though it's not part of my religion. And you say that it's okay because I have this responsibility, but when I get to heaven and I'm answering to him, is he going to care that you told me to? Right? Because plenty of people have crazy voices in their head that tell them to murder their spouse. Right? And I don't think that's going to work for them when they get up to the pearly gates. Sorry, bro, the fucking voices and like, that's my bad, I didn't mean to. Nah, straight to hell, dog. Right? So maybe that's like their view. Like, it doesn't matter what you say here because I don't have to answer to you, do I? You're not God. I'm answering to him, not you. So it doesn't matter what you tell me. It doesn't matter what the responsibility is how I feel. And you should know how I feel because you're also a Christian. And at the end of the day, like, how many people did you actually have trying to be a conscientious objector? I can't imagine there were many, right? So you have like him, Doss, and what? Like a handful of others? How many conscientious objectors existed at this time? I can't imagine it would have been enough to turn the tide of a war. Like, I could understand if, like, 50% of your draftees are choosing this as an option, and you're just like, you know what? Nah, man, we ain't gonna do that. Y'all just trying to get out of it, right? But when you have, like, what, 5, 6, 10, and in the grand scheme of things, let's say it's 1,000. 1,000 conscientious objectors? Let them go, bro. Let them out of their service. They don't want to be there. You're not going to get much out of them. You did with this guy, Alvin York, but the ones that really don't want to be there, you won't get much out of them. And the last thing I want to do is fight along someone that's not motivated because they're not in the same, you know what I'm saying? Let them go. What's it going to hurt? How much of the fight is it going to hurt? Well, in this case, don't take what I'm saying seriously because Alvin York probably did amazing things for the fight, but do you know what I'm talking about? In the grand scheme of all the soldiers you have, if you send 1,000 home, is that really going to change much? Honestly. Sending 1,000 soldiers home because of this reason, out of the hundreds of thousands you already have, will that change much? Man, that's a drop in the bucket, really. Whatever. I don't even think you can use this anymore as an excuse to get out of, but because there is no draft, but if there was a draft today, I don't think conscientious objector would help you get out of service.
York shows up. York explains everything, devout Christian, elder in my church, thou shalt not kill. At which point, Colonel Buxton is like, so do you believe everything that's in the Bible? To which York is like, absolutely, yes, sir. At which point, Buxton hits him with a verse from the Bible. Luke 22, he who hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. York immediately fires back with another piece of scripture that supports his position. Then Colonel Buxton fires...
Oh my God, they're about to have a rap battle of Bible verses. Well, that's cool, sir, but check this out. Right? Corinthians, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, touche, but I raise you this, right? Proverbs. It's like, oh my goodness.
Back with another piece of scripture that supports his, and they go back and forth having this scripture rap battle for over an hour.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 6.
That's so good.
It's like two wizards having a battle with Bible verses for over an hour. It's absolutely crazy. And then Colonel Buxton ends up winning when he hits York with Ezekiel 33. If the watchman sees the sword coming and blows no trumpet, the blood of the people is on his hands. And this shatters York's entire world.
It really does. You have every power. You have all the power to do something, yet you willfully stand there and do nothing while bad shit happens. Yeah, you can't look away from that one.
York has this epiphany. Maybe he's been sent there by God because he's the watchman. Maybe he's supposed to.
You can't, yeah. You can't really do anything about that logic. He's like, I can't just stand here and do nothing as people die. And not only just people, my own people that I also got drafted with. These brothers that I have right here. Like, yeah. You got me, sir. Where's the fucking rifle? Give it to me. Fuck it. You're lucky I can shoot really good. Otherwise, this probably wouldn't go the way you're expecting.
To be there to protect the innocent. So now he doesn't know what to do. But unbeknownst to him, while this has been going on, his pastor and Gracie and his mom back home have been writing every politician trying to get him recognized as a conscientious objector. They even wrote the office of the president, and they got it pushed through. York receives the paperwork. All he has to do is sign his name on the dotted line, and he will be recognized as a conscientious objector.
Yo, even the White House got involved, and he's about to hit them with the, you know what? Don't worry about it.
Objector, but now he doesn't know if that's what he's supposed to do. Maybe he's supposed to go off and fight in this war. So Captain Danforth gives him 10 days to go back home and figure it out. He goes home, he sees Gracie, she supports whatever he's gonna do, and then he just goes out in the woods on his favorite rock with his Bible, and he sits there for 36 hours reading the Bible and praying. Doesn't eat, doesn't drink, fasts the entire time. We don't really know what happened up there, but we do know when he comes back down, he decides that he's gonna go off to war. Okay, pause, just so we're on the same page. Whether you're religious and believe in this type of stuff, or you're an atheist, or you're religious but you believe York might be a little bit crazy, none of that matters. The only thing that matters with this now is that the 6-foot-tall, redhead, brick shithouse expert marksman now believes that he is on a mission from God to defend the innocent, and that should terrify
the fuck out of anybody. Because it's one thing to fight for your country, but something about just like, bro, that's why Al-Qaeda and Taliban, that's why they can be so lethal. And that's why their ferocity when they fight is exactly just that, because they're fighting with God on their side, right? That's their whole purpose. That's their whole fucking point. That's their whole existence, man, is to kill us in the name of their God, right? Infidels, right? So it brings out a level of motivation, desire, and willpower that you probably wouldn't find if you're just simply fighting for territory, or if you're just fighting for a resource, or if you're just, or if you're just fighting for a stupid-ass reason.
By absolutely everybody. Okay, and if you don't understand the significance of this, I've been doing combat sports my entire life. Taekwondo, karate, boxing, kickboxing. I'm a jiu-jitsu coach. I've got certifications in MACP from my time in the Army. If you name a combat sport, I've probably done it to some extent, and I've done it against a broad demographic of people, and I'm telling you right now,
I'd much rather fight someone that's fighting for money than fight someone that's fighting for their religion. Fuck the money, he's fighting for God. Man, yeah, I don't want to fight that guy. I'd rather fight the guy that's just fighting for the green.
the toughest people on the planet are these rural farm kids that grew up in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. You borderline have to kill them just to get them to slow down, and that's when they're doing it for fun, okay? I've never had to compete against one of these dudes when they thought they were on a mission from God to defeat me, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to. It sounds like an absolutely horrible time.
Yeah.
So York finishes up his 10 days of leave, heads back over to G Company, reports to Captain Danforth. Captain Danforth asks him if he wants to fight Germans. York replies, if a man can make peace through fighting, he's a peacemaker. And with that, they ship off to war. May 1st, they board the ship to head across the Atlantic Ocean, and York has never seen the ocean before. It's the most beautiful, incredible thing he's ever seen in his entire life. He's just completely awestruck at its beauty. And then 5 minutes later, he's violently puking and he gets seasick the entire voyage. So the 82nd makes it into theater in June 1918, and they spend the first couple of months they're there kind of getting rotated into reserve positions. You know, they're occupying trenches that aren't seeing a lot of combat, or they're going out on patrols. They do see some combat. They get hit with artillery. There's sniper fire, but it's not the front line. Like, it's not where all the action is happening. Despite that, during this time, York really lays down a pretty impressive demonstration of his faith, because this dude, again, believes that he's on a mission from God, and in his mind, God's not going to let him get hurt, and even if he does, it's part of God's plan, so it's...
Oh, see? That's the Achilles heel of the person that fights with religion, is it can elevate you, it can give you that X factor, right? But it also makes you susceptible to stupid decisions, dumb decision making. The last thing you want to feel like in a combat zone is invincible, okay? I believe that it is the fear of death that keeps you alive. You don't want to go out there like nothing's going to happen to you. That's a terrible way to operate. But for some way, some reason, some fucking how, it's going to work out for Mr. York.
It's okay. He does not give a fuck about anything. Like, they have enemy artillery fire coming in, everybody else is hitting the dirt, hiding in foxholes, and York is just standing there like, it'll be fine, God's gonna protect me, which sounds stupid, but it's not stupid if it works, and it works the entire time. The dude never gets so much as a scratch.
Okay.
In his journal, he literally writes that enemy sniper fire when it's close sounds like angry bumblebees when I used to rob their nest back at home. Like, everybody else is having the worst time of their life, and him almost getting his head taken off by an enemy sniper is bringing back fond childhood memories.
I'm in danger.
Oh, that's exact. I felt just like that kid, my first firefight. I was just like, oh, that's what it sounds like when it flies by you. And that's the crack that it makes. That's fucking nuts. This isn't good. This is not good. I'm not in a good spot. And for a brief moment, I was afraid. But then training kicked in, muscle memory kicked in, and I did the thing. But that brief moment of just like that reality of just like, oh, hey, buddy, by the way, remember, you're in combat. Like that jerk back to reality of like, oh shit, I'm doing this. It was surreal, really, for the most part, and that was not my reaction at all. It's
Okay, he also wrote in his journal, quote, "There's no use in worrying about shells if you can't alter things. Just ask God to help you and accept it. Men who worry destroy their peace of mind without doing any good." Okay, he's like the Terminator version of the slightly awkward homeschooled kid that you met at your first job in high school. Okay, don't give me that look, you know exactly what I'm talking about. From here, they start seeing more heavy combat. They have to go in and push the Germans out of this stronghold called St. Mihail. They go in.
I had to work through pushing. I had to push through the fear. I had to push through the anxiety. I had to push through the mental gymnastics of all of that and the rigors of combat. I had to desensitize myself, and it took longer than a week. It took me a couple months, man, to get into the whole thing. By week 9, I was like this man. But at the very beginning, I didn't hit the ground running like he did at all. I can't speak for any other soldier or veteran, but I did not hit the ground running like that. That was not my Jesus. Over time, this became the persona. Right off rip.
And they push the Germans out. The Germans end up retreating. They take over the town. Hooray. After they take over the town, right outside the town, there's all these vineyards full of fresh grapes. Grapes are essentially candy, and these guys have been eating army rations for months. That sounds delicious. So all the soldiers are going out into these vineyards. They're eating grapes. The Germans...
Yeah, those can be made into wine, though, too.
Send up weather balloons. They end up spotting a bunch of soldiers in these vineyards, and they start dropping artillery on them. All the soldiers retreat. The chain of command's like, okay, no more going out in the vineyards to eat grapes because they're going to blow your ass up. Okay. But Sergeant York knows he's not going to get blown up because God's going to protect him. So he sneaks off on his own against orders to go eat some grapes. Sergeant York is out there. It's peaceful. He's eating grapes. He's having a moment to himself in the silence. And then he turns around and it's Captain Danforth. And they kind of look at each other like, oh shit, we're both caught. And Captain Danforth is like, you're not supposed to be here.
Neither are you.
York is like, yes, sir. And Captain Danforth is like, these grapes are delicious. And York is like, Yes, sir. From here, York and the 82nd are going from St. Mihiel to another town called Chantal-Cherie. It has been held by the Germans for over 4 years. The entire duration of World War I, the Germans have been here. Whether York and the rest of the 82nd realize it at this point in time or not, they are about to participate in the Muse-Argonne Offensive. It is quite literally the largest military offensive in U.S. military history. Not largest at this point in time, no, just the largest ever, period. Okay, to put this into perspective, when people think of like huge military offensives, everybody automatically thinks of, you know, D-Day, Saving Private Ryan, other TV shows and movies about World War II. It's this massive battle scene, right? 1,000 men hitting the beach. The Muse-Argonne Offensive is 2 million men attacking the German front. It is a military operation that is quite literally so large, it is hard to conceptualize.
That's huge, bro. Oh my God. And yeah, definitely not that big.
Okay, there's 50 states in the United States. 11 of them have less than 2 million people. Okay, there's 11 states in the United States that have less people living in them in totality, between old people, young people, kids, than the amount of soldiers that are about to rush the German line. So this is only one very, very small chunk of an enormous battle, but York and the 82nd show up to Chantal-Cherie. Germans don't even put up a fight for it. They literally just leave the town and head off. And
I was literally about to say, like, bro, I'm not about to sit there and fight that. Who would?
The wood line outside the town. Now, right outside the town, there's a big hill called Hill 223. Then there's a big valley. And then on the other side of that valley, there's 3 more hills in a triangular formation. So the 82nd goes in, they push the Germans off Hill 223. They take that hill. Now they're looking forward. It's the valley, 3 triangular hills directly in front of them. And they're going to have to cross that valley while the Germans are on top of those other 3 hills. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you the 82nd is now going to have to run through a valley, AKA no cover, no concealment, while the Germans have the high ground in a triangular formation on top of hills with embedded machine gun positions.
That sounds like such a horrible time, but it doesn't matter. You want to know why? Because God's on the team.
And when I say the Germans are dug in, I don't mean
it's not gonna matter.
They dug a little hole and slapped their machine gun over the side of it. No, they've been there for 4 years, okay? They have chopped down trees, built up actual lumber walls to hide behind with roofs and camouflage the entire things. They can't even see where the German machine gun fire is gonna be coming from, let alone effectively return fire. If they're gonna have any chance of success at this, they're gonna have to coordinate with artillery. They're gonna have to drop artillery at the exact moment that they send a wave of men across the valley, and hopefully...
And that's gonna be some danger close ass shit for the men they're sending across that valley.
They're going to be able to overtake these hills and take out the Germans. So that's the plan. Orders come down.
God, dude. Ugh. What a shit job at the moment. You are running out in the open. No cover. So imagine running towards an enemy that is in the process of shooting at you while your own teammates hit the area you're running at with artillery and bombs. And you have to pray that when you get there, those artillery and bombs stop hitting so that you can either kill what's left or just continue to take more ground. The timing, the execution, all the moving pieces.
At 6:10 a.m. on October 8th, 1918, American artillery is going to bombard the German position, hopefully get them to duck their heads and take cover for a minute, while America sends out 2 waves, 60 men, that try to run across this valley and overthrow their position. So they wait, and while they're waiting, the orders actually end up changing because the unit that's supposed to be on the 82nd's flank is hung up taking German fire, and they're not in the position they need to be in to be able to support the 82nd. Unfortunately, the runner with these new orders that was sent to Hill 223 winds up getting killed, and the message never makes it to the 82nd. So as far as they know, they're still supposed to attack this objective at 6:10. 6 o'clock rolls around. No American artillery bombarding the position yet. 6:05. Still no artillery bombarding the position. At this point, people are looking around like, are we still gonna fucking launch this attack without American artillery support? What are we doing? The officer in charge is like, we were ordered to attack at 6:10. We're attacking at 6:10. Sure enough, 6:10 rolls around. The American artillery never shows up. He sends out 2 waves, 60 men.
Nah, bro, I wouldn't have done that because when it comes to the military, if the military is nothing else, bro, they're all about some fucking punctuality. The fact that they're the ones that gave you the orders and said attack when we attack, and they haven't sent that attack yet, I would not put my men at risk. That order came from them. This is the plan. I doubt that they would be mad at me if I technically disobeyed orders and didn't send that attack, because you're literally the protection for my attack. I can't go without you and vice versa. You know what I mean? So, like, no.
None of them make it. As this battle unfolds and the German machine guns open fire, the chain of command can see there's like 35 machine gun nests all over these 3 hills. There's absolutely...
The whole purpose of us running in that direction was because it was going to be under the guise of artillery fire. The artillery fire doesn't show up, yet you still send your men in. That wasn't like...
no way they're going to make it past 35 German machine guns.
No.
From here, the chain of command decides the best course of action is going to be to send out a small patrol of men. They're hopefully going to be able to skirt out around the backside of these German machine gun positions and make it to the center hill where most of their firepower is and take out all those machine gun nests. Then they should be able to assault through the valley and up onto these hills. Okay, just so we're on the same page, this is also not a great plan, okay? Like, yes, they're not assaulting the positions directly, but, you know, if the Germans are straight in front of you, they're going to run off this way, still through part of this valley, not as big of a part, not as much time to fire on them, but it's still a valley with no cover, no concealment, in broad fucking daylight. Like, best case scenario, they all run really fast, the Germans don't hit them, but now the Germans know that they're coming. So it's not a good plan, but it's the only one we've got. So they pick 17 men, they've got a sergeant, 3 corporals, and a bunch of privates. One of those corporals is Corporal Alvin York. So they go down to the base of Hill 223, probably get a quick stretch in, hype themselves up, about to run through German machine gun fire. No big deal. They're getting ready and they're counting it down and they're all gonna hop up and start running for their lives. It's like 3, 2, 1, and right as they say 1, the German machine gun positions just start getting bombarded with American artillery.
There's the
it showed up
artillery.
late and it showed up at the perfect time as all these guys start running across this narrow stretch of the valley. All the Germans are forced to take cover and none of the Germans see these guys clear the valley. Okay, I don't know if it's divine intervention.
That's what should have happened at the very beginning. But that first wave, God wasn't ready because Alvin wasn't ready, right? So, but now Alvin's ready, so God's ready. So it's like, yeah, naturally, everything's gonna work now.
Plot armor, fate, call it whatever you want, but in this particular case, shit worked out perfect.
Stop it on the enemy! We love you, boy! Jesus Christ!
Make it through the valley completely undetected into the wood line, and now they spend the next hour and a half sneaking through the woods up and around behind the German position. After like an hour of sneaking through the woods in pretty much a straight line, the sergeant pulls off to the side and he's like, okay, do we think we've gone far enough that we need to start turning because we're going to be behind the German machine gun positions now, or do we need to go a little bit further? He wants to consult his corporals.
Because at this point you can't see it yet, so it's like they're here and you done passed them. Well, they're here and you're walking. You're like, wait, should we go a little further or are we like right in line? If we go now, will we hit them? Or if we just keep walking, will we go behind them? Or are we already so far behind them that we can just go ahead and turn to get the flank? We don't know. If we keep going, we'll be even further, right? So it's just like, you got to reassess where you are. Someone pull out a map.
We'll see what everybody thinks. First 2 corporals say they've gone far enough, they should turn now. Gets to Alvin York, and Alvin York, for some reason, feels like they haven't gone far enough yet. And he's like, I think we should keep going straight for a little bit further. Okay, again, I have no idea why Alvin...
And they're just fucking eyeballing it, really, for the most part. Don't even know if they have a map. They're probably just looking at the terrain. They saw where the guns were, and they're just like... You know how, like, you can, like, navigate to... You can look at something, get a fixed point with your memory, and be like, okay, there. And you can pretty much navigate in a wide area, knowing that that spot is over there. So you can navigate in different ways, knowing what you know, where you, like, mentally marked in that area. Maybe you chose a landmark, a tree, something there, like... But you can know, right? Especially if... This is if you don't have a poor sense of direction. But they're kind of just eyeballing this shit, I feel.
York thought that. I don't know if he, you know, has a feeling from God. I don't know if he can hear the narrator speaking because he's wearing the plot armor, but he decides to keep going straight. The sergeant agrees. They go straight for a little bit longer and they come up on this like 3-foot deep trench. Now, it's not a military trench. It's just like a 3-foot deep hole. They have no idea why it's there or what it's doing. It's clearly not a military trench, but it is going to be pretty handy for them to crouch down and walk in and remain concealed and go unnoticed. In hindsight, historians would figure out later that it was actually a trench that had been there for hundreds of years that was actually used originally as a marker between 2 separate pieces of property, which means the Germans didn't put it there and they probably don't even know it exists.
But it's gonna fuck them.
So they use this trench to get further and further. It slips them right past that first hill and straight towards the hill.
Hold on, let me look at this. Hill 23 is the initial American advance.
the center, which is their objective. So as they're making
That's why. Okay, because the center gun was their objective. That's why they went there. I'm sitting here thinking like, dog. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but maybe we could have taken out number 1 at the same time. Or taken out 1 on the way to 2. I think I missed something.
Oh, they use this trench to get further and further. It slips them right past that first hill and straight towards the hill that's in the center, which is their objective. So as they're making their way there, they
I guess you take out the center gun, or matter of fact, I think it makes sense why they would go after the center one on these hills, because you take out the center one, and depending on the elevation, let's say the hill on the second gun is higher than the other 2, right? You take out the personnel on that hill for gun 2, and then you can just turn gun 2 onto gun 3 or gun 1. And you have lines of sight on both of these. And if not the gun, just your own personal firearms. And just maintain that hill and force the gun 1 and gun 3 to try to deal with you, ignoring hill 23. Or you could wreak so much havoc from right here.
And straight towards the hill that's in the center, which is their objective. So as they're making their way there, they come up on this little creek, and on this creek, there's 2 German soldiers just filling up an entire cart full of canteens to bring back to all the other Germans. Those Germans see the Americans, they shit their pants and take off running. York and his guys take off chasing them because they want to capture them or kill them so that they don't alert the rest of the Germans that they're there. As they're chasing these guys down, they come up onto this meadow, and in this meadow, holy shit, it's the battalion headquarters tent for the entire German unit there. And right beside the tent, there's like 70 German infantry soldiers that are just sitting in this meadow, chilling, eating lunch.
That's free kills right there, dog. I mean, you were going to take out the gun, but I think at this point, the gun is just a bonus. You can inflict so much damage right now.
The reinforcements that the Germans had brought in to launch a counterattack against the 82nd Division. Now, the 2 Germans that they're chasing do not immediately cut out into the meadow because they don't want to run out into the open, because then the Americans are going to shoot them. So they want to skirt this tree line and get as close to that tent as they can, and then run into the tent and tell the German commander that the Americans are here. Okay, that's a good plan on their part as far as, not getting shot and dying goes. But fortunately for the Americans, this gives them time to be like, fuck that, let them keep running through the wood line. They immediately advance into the meadow and attack these 70 soldiers that aren't carrying their guns. They're just sitting down, chilling, eating lunch, and immediately force all 70 of them to surrender. Now, the 70 Germans are caught.
Oh, I mean, that wouldn't have been my direct. But sure, yeah. Y'all win.
Completely off guard. All they see is Americans running towards them with their guns up, yelling surrender. These guys have their guns, all set to the side. Half of them are sleeping, half of them are eating. They think it's a huge American counterattack, so they surrender immediately, not knowing that it's only 17 guys. While the Germans are standing up, putting their hands in the air, the other 2 canteen Germans cut out of the wood line, run into the battalion command tent, and tell the German commander, Commander Vollmer, the Americans are attacking.
Yeah. No shit, dog. I see them.
He freaks out, grabs his pistol, turns around, goes to tell the 70 infantry troops that just showed up, get ready for a fight. And what he sees is they're already standing with their arms up in the air. They've already surrendered. And he's like, what the fuck?
I'm surrounded by idiots.
He then turns around again, probably trying to quickly send a runner or send a radio transmission to his other guys up on the hill, letting them know the Americans are here.
Oh, no, there's an American right there.
And right in front of him is 6-foot-tall, red-haired, red-mustached, ginger Alvin York standing there with his gun, and he's like,
you ain't going nowhere, boy.
Surrender. So Commander Vollmer, who actually went to college in Chicago and in Alvin York's own words, speaks better English than he does, understands exactly what Alvin York said, and agrees to surrender. York and Vollmer then leave the tent and they go out, and York's going to talk to the rest of his guys, and the Germans on top of Hill 2 with their machine guns have figured out something is going on, and they scream down at the Germans in German, presumably saying, get down. All the Germans drop and the German machine guns open fire. Before York's guys even know what's going on, they are already getting lit up by these German machine guns. In a matter of seconds, 6 Americans are killed, 3 are injured, leaving 8 men left in play with 70.
I gotta go back because I think I missed something, bro. Hold on.
Understands exactly what Alvin York said and agrees to surrender. York and Vollmer then leave the tent and they go out, and York's going to talk to the rest of his guys, and the Germans on top of Hill 2 with their machine guns have figured out something is going on, and they scream.
But I thought they were dealt with already. Oh, see? That was the plan, to deal with that turret, but y'all said, fuck it. Let's get these free... It wasn't even free kill. You didn't even kill anybody. This was the main objective, but y'all just I wouldn't even call it fucking off. Y'all just decided to just deal with first because it was too good of an opportunity. But no, but y'all didn't deal with the gun. Y'all didn't have enough people to break off and make 2 separate squads. I technically, y'all kind of did actually. Y'all had 17. Y'all could have broke off into parties of 8 and had 1 runner. Relay information between the 2. Secure the gun, secure down here. Like you said, you got to remember that they thought that this was part of a bigger attack, a bigger offensive. They didn't know it was just 17, and they probably wouldn't even have known. They probably wouldn't even have known the difference if it was just 8. They probably still would have surrendered. I'm just saying. I thought they dealt with that already. I didn't know that they just left it, and they were like, "Oh, we'll deal with that." Man. Thought that was the whole goal.
And they go out, and York's going to talk to the rest of his guys, and the Germans on top of Hill 2 with their machine guns have figured out something is going on, and they scream down at the Germans in German, presumably saying, "Get down." All the Germans drop, and the German machine guns open fire. Before York's guys even know what's going on, they are already getting lit up by these German machine guns. In a matter of seconds, 6 Americans are killed, 3 are injured, leaving 8 men left in play, with 70 prisoners and German machine gunners up on the hill opening fire on them.
So now you're in the same position that you would have been had you just split your squads. One deals with these fuckers, one takes the hill. Because you got to think about it. If those dudes on the ground decide to give you shit, you at the very least took the hill. You at the very least took gun 2. And you can use gun 2 as leverage to these guys on the ground. Like, don't fight. We got that gun. Don't fuck around. Right? But so now you're literally in the same position that you would have been had you split up to begin with. But now you don't have control of that gun. Now that gun is on you. Rough.
The 9 American casualties, they include the sergeant and the other 2 corporals, meaning that the only corporal, the only NCO, the only leadership position left in play is Alvin York and a bunch of privates. Alvin York is now in charge. The rest of the Americans all drop to the ground, try to return fire, but they're mostly just taking cover. Alvin York rushes the hill by himself.
So, I'm gonna kill each and every one of you.
And the only disappointment in it for me is that I won't get to do it twice.
And the only disappointment in it for me is that I only get to do it once.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Privates then get themselves oriented to the situation, and the 7 remaining dudes are both returning fire, trying to provide covering fire for Alvin York, while also trying to make sure that the 70 unarmed Germans behind them don't jump them and overpower them. York continues to advance under enemy fire, reaches a little swell on the ground, and drops down into a prone position, not because he's trying to avoid bullet fire. God does that for him. He just drops down to prone so he can be more accurate. So now he's looking down the sights of his rifle, and he's just waiting for the German helmet to pop up. He's sitting there, he's yelling, "Surrender, give up." He's literally trying to be a nice guy about this. German helmet pops up, domes the guy immediately. And in the back of his head, all he can think is, man, these German heads are way bigger than the heads of turkeys back home when I was hunting.
This is easy. Someone turned off Bloom. Holy shit.
He's still continuing to shout surrender as German helmets keep popping up trying to man the machine gun. And every time a German helmet pops up, he fucking drops them.
And you know what's hilarious is that he doesn't know if they're going to surrender or not. That German could be like, when he said surrender, we might be kind of fucked here. Let's just go ahead and try. Okay, bam, gone. He just sees the helmet. Is it? That's it. It's just like...
You are amazing at this. How did you get so good?
Whacking moles. And this goes on for a minute. Alvin York just being the polite homeschool kid Terminator. Literally like, guys, seriously, please surrender. Bang. Okay, that's enough now. You guys can quit. Bang. Okay, guys, please surrender. Bang.
Reminds me of like literally any kind of super good flank or super good position in any Battlefield game. And bro, it's like fucking ants. Just, oh bro, and Battlefield 1 with the Martini Henry sniper rifle, just...
Phase of the battle, Alvin York is credited with somewhere between 18 and 23 kills. Okay, now to understand and comprehend what's going to happen next, you have to understand the perspective of the Germans that are up on top of the hill. They have the high ground, they have machine guns.
What's really killing me about the Germans at the moment is that they just keep looking like, bam, there goes Hans, bam, there goes Franz, bam, there goes him, bam, there goes them. Let me see what's going on here. Bam, there goes me. What are y'all doing? He's dicking on y'all from the same spot, and y'all just, hello? 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 What are y'all doing? You high?
They have fortified fighting positions, and they are in a firefight with one man, some 6-foot-tall ginger hillbilly from Tennessee, and somehow they're losing. And every time one of them builds up the courage to pop up over the berm, man the machine gun to return fire, this giant ginger sends their brain on a field trip. And just so we're all on the same page, York is shooting an infield chambered in 30-06. That is a high-powered rifle cartridge that is common.
And just like, I'm trying to picture the scene, right? There's all of you Germans, y'all are just like on a hill, right? With this gun. And every time you try to get on the gun, one of you gets popped. Because did it ever occur to you that when one head popped up, one round was fired? Not multiple, not 6, not 7, one bullet. Head pops up, one bullet gets fired, one body drops. Which means it's one guy, guys. It's one guy, man. And you mean to tell me that it didn't even occur to you for like 5 of you to pop up at the same time? And at least see where the fire's coming from? Sure, one of you might get hit, one of you might die, but now you know the position. And then you can get another 2 guys. All right, guys, all at the same time. Now you know his position. You can fucking... 6 people fire at you. 1 bullet is gonna hit. But y'all couldn't even, like, come on, man. Superior race. Right.
Used for hunting elk and moose. This rifle and this round is significantly more powerful and way more scary than the scary AR-15s shooting 5.56 that the Army uses today. To put it into perspective, here's a watermelon getting shot by 5.56 and 30-06 at 16,000 frames.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, massive difference.
Per second. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that if you're a German on top of that hill and you've just seen 20 of your buddies get their eyebrows sent into fucking orbit, that's starting to look like not that great of an idea, and you're probably looking for alternatives. Bearing that in mind, the Germans decide they're going to do something that tactically doesn't make a lot of sense. They're going to leave their fortified fighting positions, they're going to abandon the high ground, they're going to grab their rifles, fix bayonets, and they're going to charge this giant red-headed hillbilly and show him what's up. So
that's not a bad plan. I've seen several other soldiers throughout the course of history do that, and it worked out for them because, yo, dog, the enemy simply just wasn't expecting it. But, I mean, y'all don't know this, but we do. This guy's got God on his team, so...
with rifles and fixed bayonets and bayonet charge Alvin York, which in hindsight was a complete mistake for them, and it worked out for Alvin York because Alvin was actually out of rifle rounds altogether and he wasn't going to be able to do anything else, but now he's got 12 Germans running at him, so he pops up, grabs his Colt 1911 chambered in 45 ACP. Bear in mind, he's only got 8 rounds and 12 Germans running at him. Alvin...
that means that if all goes well, according to plan, he domes 8 and knife kills 4. Let's see how it plays out, Cotton.
York immediately shoots one, drops him. At that point, 4 of the other Germans decide, okay, this is clearly the main character. I'm an anonymous henchman. I'm just going to call it a day. They hop back in the trench.
And look, let's go get him. Bam. Wait. Did he just use a smaller caliber and still kill one of us? Nah. Let's try to go back to the gun.
Look at you. You haven't even got a name tag. You've got no chance. Why don't you just fall down? Go on, son.
So now there's 7 Germans still bayonet charging him, and he has 7 bullets. He has to be absolutely perfect. Now, from the lead German's perspective, the guy that's out in front, obviously, he's the one that's going to get shot first. I mean, right? That's what makes sense. You shoot the closest threat first. That way nobody comes to get you, right?
I really hope that you Germans didn't decide to bum rush him in a straight line. I would hope that there's so many of you that at least one of you had the brains to be like, okay, well, while these motherfuckers charge first and faster and they're closer, they might get shot, but I may be able to like get a flank or something, maneuver, but nah, it's not gonna matter.
Right, so as long as he doesn't get shot, everything's going great. He sees Alvin York fire. The bullet whizzes past him.
Ooh.
Alvin York missed. Fires again. Another bullet whizzes past him. Again. All of the bullets, all 6 of them, go whizzing right past him. He's got 1 bullet left. He gets shot directly in the stomach and drops. But what actually happened, Alvin York didn't miss. He didn't miss a single time. Alvin York...
oh my God. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way you... oh my God. I think I know where this is going. He didn't miss the guy in front of him that was closest. He shot everyone behind him. And then now that he's out of ammo, he's like, all right, bet, bitch, let's go. I'm 6 foot. I grew up in the mountains. I'm about to whoop your ass. And the German's like, I have friends and you missed. Turn around, buddy boy. Well, this has been a turn of events that I did not foresee. There's no way. Hold on now.
Drops. But what actually happened, Alvin York didn't miss. He didn't miss a single time. Alvin York knew that if he shot the dude in the front, everybody behind him was going to see it, and they were all going to take cover, and he wasn't going to have any ammo. So he decided to take out the Germans the same way that you shoot a flock of geese that are flying, and he took out the geese at the rear of the formation first, working his way to the front so the formation didn't scatter. He was shooting the man in the back.
That is next level badass, dog. That is next level badass. That's the equivalent of a quarterback standing in the pocket, right? Looking for a receiver while these big ass linebackers try to get him. But in this case, it's they're rushing you, trying to kill you with bayonets, and you have a finite amount of ammo. And thank God you're an expert marksman. Holy shit. That's insane.
Back instead of the man in the front and dropped all 7 Germans. Now, cutting back to Alvin York's perspective during this bayonet charge where he's using bird hunting tactics to kill Nazis, he has bullets.
It's like, it reminds me of what was it, Captain America Civil War, where Hawkeye shoots that arrow with Ant-Man on the edge of it, and Iron Man's like, you missed. And Hawkeye's like, really? I did not miss.
Bullets whizzing past him from behind him. Somebody is shooting at him while he's shooting these Germans.
Wait, hold on. I missed something because I was talking. Oh, sorry.
Using bird hunting tactics. Now, cutting back to Alvin York's perspective during this bayonet charge where he's using bird hunting tactics to kill Nazis, he has bullets whizzing past him from behind him. Somebody is shooting at him while he's shooting these Germans.
Oh my God. How are you missing? He's got his back to you. Sweet baby Jesus. Like when you find yourself in a bot lobby, right? And you're shooting at other players, and there's this one little jackass shooting you from behind, and you turn on him and kill him so fast. And usually he calls you a cheater, but it's just like, no, dog, you're trash. Unless it's a teammate that saw him in trouble and was like, oh, I got you from far away or something. I don't know.
It's that German commander Vollmer, because remember, nobody bothered to take his pistol away from inside the tent because shit hit the fan so fast.
Oh, forgot all about that guy. Yeah. Jesus. You missed every bullet on this man. And he was, 1, he's probably standing still. 2, he's got his back turned to you. And you miss every round. No wonder you're in a position of leadership. I would not want you on the battlefield, sir. Holy ass.
And he's trying to save his own guys, which is pretty understandable. So while York is shooting at Germans with his pistol, Vollmer is shooting at York with his pistol, and York doesn't give one single fuck, because remember, he's on a mission from God, and God is going to protect him, and if he doesn't get protected, it's all part of God's plan, so it's going to be fine. So York just focuses on what he's doing and lets everything else work itself out, and of course, doesn't get a single scratch on him the entire time. Vollmer empties the pistol, misses every single shot. York lands every one of his.
Well, yeah, it's literally... And the fact that it was with a pistol, a weapon that is famously used by officers. Even when I served in the military, we would go to the range and all of us E4s, regular soldiers, were shooting M4s, M16s, 50 cals, all this shit. What are the officers doing? They're at the M9 range with their pistol. So not just today, but back then, the pistol has been a staple for officers worldwide. You missed the whole magazine at damn near point blank range with an enemy with his back turned to you, not moving. How is that possible? And my man, retire. Well, you're about to get retired right now by Mr. Alvin York because he's out of ammo, but if that's the way you shoot, I can't imagine you can fight. That's crazy.
turns around, Vollmer drops the pistol, puts his hands up. He knows when he's been bested, and he looks at York.
But you weren't bested, though. You... Thanks for the compliment, but I didn't beat you. You beat yourself. You were not bested. You fucking shit yourself and then gave up. Yo, that's gotta be the most egregious thing I've heard so far. That you were bested. And that's like no shade towards Alvin, but you did not lose to Alvin, bro. You shit the bed. If he survived, he'd be the guy that's like telling war stories. Like, I got into it with Alvin. It was hands. It was guns. It was crazy. Like, I held my own and everything. Y'all ever seen did y'all see the scene where Iron Man fought Captain America? It was just like that. Only for reality to be like, nah, dog, you missed every bullet and then gave up because you knew that this hillbilly was going to beat the fuck out of you. And then you surrendered instantaneously. And it was just one man. One man. That's unreal. That is unreal. Man. If it wasn't documented with historical accuracy, I really wouldn't believe it, because there's no way you would be able to convince me that a soldier, regardless of military, regardless of country, would be able to miss a full magazine at damn near point blank on a non-moving target.
And York goes, I'm an American. And he's like, no, I'm saying I speak English. Quit killing everybody. I'll get the guys up there to surrender so you don't have to kill everybody. At which point, York reloads his pistol, points it at Vollmer, is like, okay, go ahead. Vollmer starts yelling a bunch of stuff up the hill in German. Couple seconds later, a bunch of more Germans come out, no weapons, with their hands up, and they surrender too. Germans finish coming.
Y'all surrendered to one guy.
Down the hill, they join the rest of the POWs, at which point,
if I didn't know any better, this guy's fucking Batman.
One of the 7 remaining privates comes up to York and is like, York, what are we going to do with all these prisoners? We don't have enough men to handle this many guys and get them.
And that's why you don't take prisoners ever. You don't have the time, the manpower, or just not the food. You take prisoners, you got to feed these fuckers, you got to treat their wounds, and nah, man. Unless you just so happen to catch these motherfuckers like right next to your base of operations and you can bring them on with like other personnel there, but like on a mission, out in combat, like you're out in the shit at the moment on some really dark shit, you could just kill all of them. But that's not the kind of guy Alvin York is, I believe. He's not going to do that. He'll kill you for the mission, but once you're no longer a threat, he'll let you live. That's where me and Alvin differ.
Back behind our lines. Vollmer hears this and he's like, what? I'm sorry, how many men do you guys actually have? And York is like, I've got plenty, don't worry about it.
Don't tell him the truth. Yeah, you do not want these guys to get ballsy.
At this point, York, with Vollmer still at gunpoint, is going to use Vollmer to translate and get everything moving. He's like, all right, get your guys up. Tell them to get in a column of 2. We're going to march out of here. Tell them to pick up your wounded. Tell them to pick up my wounded and my dead. They're going to carry them back to our lines. Problem, how on earth are we going to get back? Because we definitely can't go the way we came through the woods. We're not going to be able to keep track of like 100+ German prisoners through that dense forest. We're going to have to go out in the open.
Alvin York is a true hero, a true patriot, a true man of morals and principles, because, bro, let me tell you something. I would have killed all these people. I would have killed all these Germans. Again, the way I see combat is I'm not going to leave you alive today so that you can kill me tomorrow. And on top of that, bro, think about it. You're going to march these men? Where are you going to march them to? And what if you get in contact with another German force? What if you just so happen to run into another German force that you didn't know about that is a bigger element than what you have? And now it's not 8 of you against, I don't know, how many soldiers are here? Like maybe 30, right? Now it's 8 of you plus those 30, now plus the new Germans that you've encountered. And they're going to realize, oh, there's more of us than you. But it's going to work out for you.
and the rest of the Germans are going to see us, and that's not going to work out. At which point, Vollmer chimes in, and he's like, well, you can take this gully right here, and that'll take you right to Hill 223. He's obviously trying to set him up for an ambush because he knows where all of his soldiers are, and York is like, well, we're not fucking going there. You know what? I'm the main character. We're just going to march.
Very, very smart of Alvin right there in that moment. Holy shit.
Right down the main road that goes straight to Chantal Cherie, straight to Hill 223. So that's what
You know what you could do in this moment is you could drop your American uniforms, pick up some uniforms off some dead Germans, blend in with this group to where it just looks like a foot patrol. That way, if anything at all happens and you just so happen to run into the wrong one, or had you fallen victim to this trap by this German commander that was trying to lead you to the enemy, it would have maybe gone better or worked or something. Maybe you wouldn't have caught as much flack because you could have been like, if you alert them that we have you under duress, we'll slaughter all of you right here, right? And when someone's behind you with a gun, you'll do whatever they say. So
they do. They just take off ruck marching right down the middle of this main road in the middle of enemy held territory because York is the main character and it's all part of God's plan.
Well, I guess York's mindset was like, if I walk right down the fucking middle, there's only 8 of us, but there are a lot of Germans here. I doubt that any other German that fucking sees us is going to open fire on their own troops just to kill 8. Maybe that was his thought process. So basically, at this moment, he's using the Germans as a shield and as insurance. Because again, you got to remember, at this moment, they're still outnumbered.
I guess. So they're making their way there, and sure enough, they run into an entire platoon of Germans that are guarding the road, because obviously. However, from the Germans' perspective, there's like 7 Americans and 100+ Germans.
So to the Germans guarding the street, they probably think that the Germans have these Americans prisoner when in reality it's the other way around. Holy shit.
There's absolutely no way that those Americans have those Germans as POWs, so they don't open fire. They end up walking up and approaching to see what's going on, figuring the Americans are the POWs. Once they get close enough to realize the Americans are the ones with the guns, York shoves his pistol into Vollmer's back and is like, make them surrender, tell them they're surrounded. Vollmer does what he's told, tells them to drop their guns, they're surrounded. They do it because Vollmer's the battalion commander, they drop their guns, and they get taken as POWs too. From there, they...
Without having Vollmer, he can't do this because he has such he has such an insane bargaining chip. Without this German commander, he doesn't do any of this. Yo, so many things happened and so many stars aligned in the right way for him to be able to do this because there's no fucking way. That's such an insane bargaining chip. You have a gun to the head of the motherfucker that can give orders to a majority of the soldiers on the ground. Fuck.
They just keep marching to Hill 223, and as they start getting closer, the Americans see a massive formation of German uniforms approaching. They start freaking out, thinking it's a giant counterattack. They start moving men around, getting ready for a fight, and as they keep getting closer and closer, they're looking through field glasses, and they see York's big ginger ass with a gun pointed at the German, and it's like, holy shit, York captured everybody. So they get to the base of Hill 223. The 82nd commander meets him down there and is like, York, holy shit, how many men did you capture? To which York replies, honestly, I have no idea, sir.
I just like, what would you guys do in this situation if you were the Germans? This is what I'm doing. Well, Commander Volmir, what's his name? Volmir? Sir? If I'm a German troop, sir, you fucking suck. Okay. And on top of that, you could have killed this man 9 fucking times. And you didn't. At all. And now we're gonna have to pay the price because of you? How about we just kill you and then we kill these other 8 Americans? There's so many of us. Fuck you, sir. We're just gonna kill you, save ourselves, kill these Americans, and then we're gonna go back to the rest of the German soldiers and officers and tell them that we're the only survivors and that our commander died in combat. We're not gonna tell anyone that we fucking killed you, but sir, fuck you. You gotta go. We're in this because of you, and because of you is the reason that this is gonna continue. That's how you win that. As a German, you got to kill your commander.
And the commander's like, all right, well, you're promoted to sergeant, by the way. Great work. March these guys into Chantal Cherie, and I'll count them off as they march by, I guess. Commander then proceeds to count them off as they march by. York had captured 132 Germans. So York marches his POWs off to Chantal Cherie, and the rest of the 82nd resumes their attack because now the Germans have 35 less machine gun positions, and the ones that do remain don't have a chain of command to be giving them orders. So they overtake the objective, they secure the area fairly easily. York makes it to Chantal Cherie, where battalion headquarters are. Battalion headquarters is like, we don't have the logistics for this many prisoners. March them up to regimental.
Yeah, they were like, bro, we thought you were gonna kill all those people. We thought you were just gonna kill people, bro. We didn't tell you to like bring us back a whole extra fucking company of people. We didn't really think that y'all would do this. We really thought y'all were just gonna go out there and kill motherfuckers.
Headquarters marches them up to regimental headquarters. They can't take that many prisoners either.
Oh my God.
March them to division headquarters. Marches them all the way to division headquarters.
Alvin, did you ever think that it was strange that they didn't train y'all on what to do with POWs? Did you not find that odd about the curriculum whenever you were going through basic and AIT and all that stuff? Maybe it's because that wasn't a part of the plan, man. I don't blame them either, man. Same sentiment. Fuck.
He gets there, General Lindsay, like the main guy in charge of the 82nd, approaches York and is like, York, I hear you've captured the whole damn German army. To which York replies, just with sheer Forrest Gump levels of modesty, no, sir, I only captured 132.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, I know that.
From there, he gets some food, finds a cot, lays down, writes in his journal for a little bit, because, you know, he's had a pretty eventful day. In his journal, he writes, and I quote, "So you can see here in this case of mine where God helped me out. I'm a witness to the fact that God did help me out of that hard battle, for the bushes were shot up all around me, and I never got a scratch." Morning, York reports back to Captain Danforth, and he requests to take out a small detail to go back to the site of his battle and look for any survivors, because that's just the type of guy that York is. Captain Danforth not only agrees to let him do it, but he's like, I'm going with you, and he brings some other high-ranking officers with him because they want to hear York explain what the fuck happened. By the time they get out there, there's no...
Well, you see, over here, sir, I killed like 9 of them. And then their trash-ass commander tried to kill me from behind. He missed every bullet. That's not important. So I kidnapped his bitch ass and used him as a bargaining chip to kidnap some other Germans, who led me to some more Germans, and I used the commander to get them to surrender. And then, yeah, I ran out of Germans to find. So like that's all I could really get. But that was it.
No survivors, all the dead bodies has already been removed. There was never an official body count of how many Germans York killed, but pretty much everybody agrees it's somewhere between 20 and 30 that he had killed single-handedly.
And what's funny is the number could actually read 152 Germans captured, because remember, Alvin was like, hey, you want to surrender? No? Okay. Hey, just asking again, in case you change your mind. You want to surrender still? No? Oh, okay. But let me know. And just kept fucking them up because they didn't want to. Yeah, so. And wouldn't that be funny if he said that? He's like, they were like, oh, you captured 132. That's amazing. He's like, it could have been 152. But what happened to the other 20 or 30? He's like, I had to kill him. And the reporter's like, I'm sorry, what? I had to kill him. They didn't want to play ball. I asked him if they wanted to surrender. They said no.
York then takes him to the patch of grass that was his firing position, and, you know, he was in the heat of battle. He wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. It was all part of God's plan. But looking at it in retrospect, everything around the patch of grass that he was on is absolutely shot to shit. Just hundreds of bullet holes all over it. None of them hit Alvin York. He dropped his canteen during that firefight. That canteen was still there, feet from his position, and that canteen had 18 bullet holes in it. Okay, literally the holy canteen. It's all part of God's plan. York finishes explaining everything that happened there. They head back to headquarters. This is like a big deal, right? I mean, you're gonna probably give this guy the Medal of Honor. They gotta really know what happened, and this sounds so incredibly unbelievable. Like, they need to make sure this actually happened before they write this up, right? So they interview York twice. Same exact story every every time. He's incredibly modest about the entire thing, tries to give as much credit to the other 7 privates as he can. They interview the 7 privates. All 7 privates are like, Alvin York's a fucking superhero.
Yeah.
They interview some of the Germans. The Germans are like,
he was a man possessed. Get him away. He's not here, is he? He's not in the room, is he? Oh, thank God. Okay, yeah, man possessed. That keep him the fuck away from me. Keep him away from all of us. Matter of fact, when we get back to Germany, we're gonna drop some paperwork. He's banned from the country. I don't care. The Germans telling horror stories about one man.
it was fucking crazy. I don't know. We couldn't hit the guy with bullets. They interview Volmer. The story is the same across everybody. It's one of the most well-researched battles ever. From here, a couple of weeks go by. By October 28th, 1918, his unit gets pulled back out of the Argonne. They go to the rear, and then he gets placed on 10 days leave on November 1st. And while he's on leave, he sends a postcard back home to his mother. You know, he's probably got a lot to tell her. That postcard reads, and I quote, "Hello, I'm okay. Sending you a postcard view of a little of this country along the coast. It's a nice scene." Well, that's all. He's literally Forrest Gump.
Not really. That's kind of like standard for what you would say to your mother if you were deployed or if you were away on a combat operation, because I can remember every single conversation I had with my mom during both deployments. You want to know I can remember every conversation? Because I only talked to her 5 times throughout both deployments. The only person I talked to was my dad. I gave him updates and then hung up the phone, didn't talk to anybody else. Talked to my mom a couple times, but that was the extent of the conversation. "Hi, son. How are you?" "Pretty good." "How is everything?" "Just bored and hot. That's it. Gotta go. Love ya. Bye." No sense in telling them anything. No sense in them knowing anything, even if what you did was spectacular. And it doesn't matter how spectacular it is. What? Tell your mom, like, "Yeah, Mom, I fucking killed 30 people and then captured 132 more. That's not what your mother wants to hear from her son. You know what I'm saying?
Like I said, he goes on 10 days leave on November 1st, 1918. Guess what happens on November 11th, right as he's ending his leave? Germany surrenders. World War I is over. Coincidence? Almost unequivocally yes, but it's funny to joke that Alvin York was coming off vacation, so the Germans just decided to call it a day and end World War I.
We call him Baba Yaga.
From here, Alvin York gets recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. The only reason they weren't going to give him...
Yo, we thought that after the Medal of Honor or something like that, that he would just, like, get out of the military like all the other ones. Nah.
Medal of Honor was because, well, the story was too unbelievable and nobody was willing to agree that that actually happened. So they conducted an even more thorough investigation. Turns out it was all 100% legit. They upgraded it to the Medal of Honor.
Good.
He gets awarded the Medal of Honor. From here, they get sent out to some parade field. They're ordered to pick up all the cigarette butts out of this parade field because there's some fancy French general coming in to do some ceremony or something rather. So York and the rest of the guys are out in this parade field for like 2 days, picking up thousands and thousands of cigarette butts. Turns out the French guy that was coming was actually the French guy, Ferdinand Foch, the supreme Allied leader of World War I, and he was actually coming for Alvin York.
Oh
they have a
my
big
God.
ceremony, and Ferdinand Foch awards Alvin York the French Croix de Guerre, essentially the French version of the Medal of Honor. He pins it right next to York's Medal of Honor and says, and I quote, "What you did was the greatest thing ever accomplished by any soldier in any of the armies of Europe."
It
From
really
here,
is.
York gets yanked away. He goes on speaking tours all over France. He does that for a number of months. He's finally ready to go home, goes back to America. The Americans find out. They want to know more about York. He does speaking tours all over America.
You know who I want to know about? I want to know about Commander Volmir, or whatever, however you pronounce his name. The German commander that was basically used as York's bargaining chip and leverage throughout this entire campaign. I want to know what happened to him. What happened to his future? What did he do in life? What happened to that guy? Probably would just hide my fucking head in shame, really, for the rest of my time. Especially if I fucking blow a point-blank kill, get myself captured, which leads to the subsequent capture of the rest of my goddamn unit. I wouldn't show up anywhere.
America. At this point, he's still in the United States Army. He finally gets released from service, but the American public wants more. They want to know everything. He's getting $1,000 offers to go give speaking engagements, which back at this point in time, $1,000 is a ton of money. He's getting offered $10,000 for his life story in a book. He's getting offered $50,000 to do a film about his exploits. He rejects all of it. He doesn't want any of it. He doesn't want the fame. He doesn't want to be recognized or glorified for having to take a human life. He only feels like he did it because it was absolutely necessary, because he is the peacemaker. So that's it. He just flat out rejects everything, goes back into the mountains of Tennessee. He just wants to go there, live his life, read his Bible, marry his sweetheart Gracie, and that's exactly what he does. Time goes by and he still has people offering him money left and right for speaking engagements, movies, books, anything and everything you can imagine. He's getting offered money to endorse products, absolutely everything. And eventually he kind of figures, you know, this is a rare opportunity. He could probably do a lot of good in the world if he raised all this money and did something productive with it. And he remembers, you know, he wasn't really able to go to school as a kid. He has about a 3rd grade education. He was only able to go to school on weekends. There just wasn't a school in that part of rural Tennessee when he was growing up, and there still isn't today. But if he could raise enough money, he could change that. He could affect the lives of all the kids around him, and that's cool. What he decides to do. So that's what he does. He leverages his fame to raise money to open up schools for kids in rural areas so they can get an education. He goes on speaking tours, raising money. He sells the rights to his book. He sells the rights to his war diary that he kept during World War I.
It's so funny, and just like him, to use his same approach that he used for taking a life in the service, that he used for accepting the fame and everything that came with his actions. He didn't want anything to do with it until he thought to himself, I don't want to do this, but there's a whole bunch of people I could help by doing this. Keeping on with his sentiment that if you're in a position to do something, you should, because you're part of the problem if you don't, right? And you're turning your back on something you shouldn't turn your back on. So he used that same sentiment for doing this that he did for the service, which I think is pretty awesome for him to stay in character, for his character to stay the same like that, and for him to use the same logic that he used for his time in the service, but just for other facets of life after military. I think that speaks well to his character and the kind of dude that he is.
He sells the rights to a movie, goes on, B's the technical advisor. He ends up raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, which at this point in time is millions. He ends up founding the York Institute in Jamestown, Tennessee, which is a privately funded school, but it's open to kids for free. And this wasn't just like overnight or over a year. This took years and years and years to do. And over the course of that time, he raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he paid himself almost nothing. Like, he didn't build a new fancy house. He didn't buy a bunch of nice stuff for himself or his family. He was still living exactly how he grew up the entire time. Out of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he made, I believe he paid himself just over $6,000 over the course of like a decade. The man is truly selfless. He literally took just enough money.
That's like fucking like 0.0 something percent.
To keep food on the table for his family, and gave everything else to this school. But as we all know, no good deed goes unpunished. Alvin York, the man with a 3rd grade education, was under the impression that because he was doing selfless stuff with the money, he was literally donating it to give kids an education, he thought that that was a charitable donation and that he didn't have to pay taxes on it. Well, apparently he was wrong, because he wasn't a, 401c fucking charity or whatever the fuck with the IRS. So none of that counts, and Alvin York now owes a ton of money in back taxes, and the IRS is coming after him.
It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore chest.
Okay, and just so we're on the same page, this is like now the early 1940s. 2 decades have gone by, and the tax rate at this point in time is absolutely insane. The top marginal income bracket for federal taxes is 81%. He made $134,000 with his hit movie that came out in 1941. The IRS said he owed them like $90,000 of that money. Alvin York didn't have it. He used all the money to build this school and start teaching kids for free. When the IRS told him that he owed all that money, he had a net worth of $21,000. $20,000 of that net worth was just the value of the farm that him and his family lived on. The same farm that his family has lived on since they came across the ocean and lived there there in a fucking cave. Other than that, he had a car that was worth $700. He had $2.20 in his checking account, and he got a $10 a month stipend for being a Medal of Honor recipient. That was it. He gave everything else away. Thankfully, the government steps in because York doesn't have the money to keep funding this school. So the government steps in and is like, oh, you built the whole school for us? You bought instruments for the band, book?
Oh, by the way, I captured 132 fucking Germans, killed an additional 30, and I don't know, man, and I'm the catalyst for future legendary heroes to come throughout the course of motherfucking history. I'm sorry. What are we talking about here? Even back in the day and today, we still don't do enough for our legendary heroes that actually deserve it. Not a motherfucker like me, your regular run-of-the-mill soldier, right? That was just like, went where Uncle Sam told him to go. I'm talking about like guys like this, the above and beyond, like almost damn near almost supernatural motherfuckers.
Chairs, desks, everything. Oh yeah, we'd be willing to, you know, take that over and make it a public school, which...
Yeah, Medal of Honor recipients shouldn't even have to pay fucking taxes. Period. Ever. For the rest of their life. On anything.
York doesn't give a shit. He literally just...
And if the Medal of Honor recipient is dead, their family gets the same luxury.
Wants kids to get an education, so of course he signs it over to the government so they can keep maintaining the York Institute. That's cool. And it is literally still in operation to this day. It is a public high school in Jamestown, Tennessee. In addition to that, thanks to a literal act of Congress, they forgive his debt, and he is now debt-free. Now, going back to his movie, came out in 1941, right as...
Go fuck yourself, IRS. That's what you get.
America's getting ready to enter World War II, it is a nationwide sensation. He becomes the most popular man in the country all over again. Because of the popularity of this movie and because of the fact that Alvin York served in the 82nd Infantry Division, the All-American Division, when World War II kicks off and they start reactivating old units, one of the first units to get reactivated is the 82nd Infantry, which becomes the 82nd Airborne, which is still active to this day, and it is one of the most prestigious military units in the United States Army. In addition to that, it inspires tens of thousands of American men to join the military because they want to be a hero too, just like Alvin York. And one of those Americans is Audie Murphy, who would go on to become the most decorated war hero of World War II. Alvin York would go on to pass away at the age of 76, but his legacy lives on both in the school that he helped found and the 82nd Airborne Division. And that time the Army tried to name a god-awful tank after him. Seriously, can we name something else awesome after this guy? Like the next sniper rifle, call it the York.
I've heard about this vehicle before. And yeah, put his name on something else. And not that trash. I've watched a video on this. Good lord.
Tank after him. Seriously, can we name something else awesome after this guy? Like the next sniper rifle, call it the York Peacemaker. That's a dope name. He deserves it. Let's do that. This man accomplished incredible and unbelievable things both on and off the battlefield, and then afterwards he went on to live a truly selfless life in the service to others. And that is why you should never forget the name Alvin York. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
That was good.
My favorite thing about the Sergeant York movie was he was the technical advisor. Like, he signed off on absolutely everything in the movie. He tried to have the other men represented. He tried to keep it as accurate as possible. But there was one thing he didn't sign off on, and I don't even know if he knew they did it, because they made it seem like Alvin York kissed Gracie before he went off to war. Both Alvin, his wife, and all of their kids after the fact, whenever this gets brought up or whenever they're interviewed about it, they are adamant and make sure they point out that never happened. Gracie York is not some hussy that would kiss before their marriage. Their first kiss was on their wedding day. And I don't know. I think that's just funny. Like, funny and cute.
Because for the time, man, yeah, 1918, 1920, and 1930, that was taboo. You didn't do that. No hand holding, no fucking PDA, none of that stuff. You got looked at different. Not like today where bitches on OnlyFans demand respect. That's wild. Ladies were ladies back then, and they had to make sure. No. There was no kiss. We got married first. Motherfucker, get it right. But you know Hollywood. They got to put a love story into everything. Even my favorite superheroes. I'm just trying to watch a fucking badass, legendary, galactic fight. Here comes Mary Jane. Nice. Fantastic. Super fun.
Anyways, see you guys later.
Yeah, bye. Take it easy, man. I will catch you on the next one.
I remember one day back in the Argonne when we took several prisoners, I noticed one German corporal looking us over, mightily puzzled. He could speak a little English, He asked if all of us in the outfit were Americans. We told him we were. He just shook his head. Didn't seem that he could take it at all. You see, the All-American Division was made up
a whole bunch of different races, creeds, different walks of life. Why it was the All-American Division? And this German couldn't wrap his head around the fact that all these people that had all these differences were working under the same umbrella, working for the same team. Because, you know, Germans back then, they really did need propaganda, because without propaganda, they just come off as retarded.
Of boys from all over the country. There were boys from the mountains like me, and boys from the small towns and cities. There were Southerners, New Yorkers, Middle Westerners, as well as boys from the cow country in the Pacific coast. And there were men whose folks had been Greek, Italian, Jewish, German, Polish, Swedish, and Irish. Just every strain of good American you could think of. It sure seemed to get this German corporal down. He just couldn't understand how we could all pull together and smash up soldiers of the great German race.
Because most of your German leadership are a whole bunch of fucking ignorant-ass, pussy-ass cowards. That's why. And they conditioned your brain to think the very same way. That's why you can't even fathom that different colors and different creeds are working together. Because of the sheer ignorance and retardedness of your fucking army, regime, nation at the time. Really.
They can't get it through their thick heads that it's not your creed or your height, nor the color of your eyes that makes an American. It's our freedom and equality over the Constitution and our Bill of Rights that makes an American an almighty fighter.
And only a fuckboy would be confused about that concept. AKA Nazi Germans. That's it. And if you sympathize with these fuckers, you're also a fuckboy. Or a fuck lady. Get shit on. Get fucking shit on. How does it feel to know that your superior race, these little cocksuckers, that you're on their dick on the daily, how does it feel to know they got beat by one guy? One guy, man. Yeah. Fuck all you queer baits that support them still to this day. Superior, the most inferior motherfuckers I've ever seen. Get motherfucking shat on. You lost both times. Get shat on. You got beat by one guy. Get shat on. You got soloed by multiple different soldiers throughout the course of history. Get shat on. And your supreme fucking leader, the coward he was, killed himself. Because he was not going to be able to take persecution. Because he knew what was coming. The same thing he dealt. Pussy boy. Pussy boy.